So coming out of the research, the issue that I'm interested in is, what are you suggesting relative to what's significant relative to the type of thinking that should go into further work in this area? What are the significant issues that you think need to be explored further? What are possible frames for looking at the work? And while there may be, you may recap the study, you're highlighting more the frame that you've used and the areas for further research than you are particular specific findings, although they would be included there, that a good part of the discussion includes recommendations for further research, the worth of the frame, where you're doing a form of critical reflection on the study itself. And so in the discussion, it's not you, in a sense, sort of highlighting how wonderful this study is. What you're doing is giving the people an opportunity for you to talk about in a critical fashion the issues that you've been studying and the method you use to study it. In a sense, you're talking about perhaps the limitations, but the limitations are positioned almost as the fuel for going on further. So as you look at the approach to research, I would constantly think about these issues and how you actually are approaching this in a way and reporting it in a fashion that keeps it situated and involves a high degree of what may be called reflexology. So you've been very concrete at the same time as you've sort of guided people through your thinking and the thinking of others. And so there's a sense in which when one is reading about this, they're reading about a place, people in that place exploring issues, where the research isn't something that's neatly packaged and then finally presented in a closed, definitive sense, but the research is carefully represented and positioned in a way that is provocative, but also clear and likely to spur additional work, where people can sort of see your sense of how this might be significant in an ongoing sort of fashion. And that the focus isn't the reporting of research as if it's an object, but research that is alive and trying to be and being transformative. So I hope as you think about research that you're doing, you might find at least this discussion in a sort of an illustrative fashion helpful in terms of you thinking through how you might explore these sorts of issues. I think if I were you, or in this case myself, exploring an issue, I find myself wanting to constantly take notes as I'm working on a study. Sometimes the notes are based upon things that I've observed that I don't want to forget. Sometimes the notes are based upon things that I'm reading that might be relevant, and being able to sort of pull it all together eventually in some sort of report that achieves all of these sorts of types of things. I'm not suggesting that this can be done within a 5-page. I'm seeing this as the types of things which is going to take a much more extended approach, approaching numerous pages, and maybe as we move much more to a web-based thing, an approach which enables you to create a discussion of the research where people can sort of move in and out of windows for purposes of taking a closer look at something or other, or reading something related to it, And so I actually think we still haven't really fully capitalized upon the online potential of representing these sorts of work. Indeed, I would hope that if in fact you're into a sort of a transformative style, you might actually be positioning your research on your own website, where you're able to afford people an opportunity to offer comments, ask questions, and to be engaged in sharing their own work related to your own. I do know recently I published a piece that appeared in a journal and also online, and I would say within moments of it going online, I had notes from colleagues sent to me about issues that they were themselves focusing in upon. And it wasn't as if there was a sort of a total reading of my sense in a beginning to end fashion. It was like a reading where people had different interactions with different ideas that I was exploring. And I found myself then being sort of triggered to think about their ideas in different ways. A good example of that was a recent study I published looking at scholarship in China and the US, and for which I received a comment from a colleague in Australia talking about their work. And very quickly, my text was connected to their text as I was sort of thinking about the issues that I was interested in exploring and thinking about in conjunction with the globalization of educational research and what it would really mean to internationalize educational research, which is a question that I find myself totally intrigued by. Not thinking that any single study will provide me answers to that, but as I interact with others doing other work, it sort of triggers different ways to think about these sorts of issues in ways that I hope will eventually be very much having an influence on how we engage internationally with one another in a fashion which is in a colonial type of fashion, in a fashion which nourishes and support one another in a diverse sort of fashion. And so as one does research, one thing I haven't mentioned in here is possibly the need to fess up to what are the values and dispositions that might have influenced your interest in these discoveries to start with. So anyhow, I hope you find this useful, and I hope you are inclined to sort of share with me your thoughts on this as you engage in your thinking about what it is that you do in your research. Thank you so much.